Again, my name is Dan McGrath. I'm a consulting entomologist and a specialist in integrated pest management. In 2016, I was working with maize farmers in Ghana, right at the very moment that the fall armyworm invaded West Africa. I witnessed firsthand what is referred to as an invasion outbreak. Basically, fall armyworm left its natural enemies behind in the Americas. Unregulated by its natural enemies, the fall armyworm population exploded in West Africa and then spread across sub-Saharan Africa and then on to Asia. Since 2016, I've devoted myself to the full-time work of helping smallholder farmers and the ministries of agriculture in countries in Africa and Asia to win their struggle with the fall armyworm. My goals have been threefold. One, to prevent crop failure and possible food shortages. Two, to reduce the use of highly toxic insecticides. And three, to reduce the cost of controlling fall armyworm. Today, we're going to talk about scouting for fall armyworm. Now, where does scouting fit in an integrated pest management program? It fits in the middle of the IPM sandwich. Here's what I mean. It fits in the middle. A cost-effective integrated pest management program is built on a strong foundation of biological and cultural control. Once the biological and cultural controls are in place, we monitor the fall armyworm egg-laying pressure. We monitor egg-laying pressure with pheromone traps and field scouting. When we detect an outbreak, this is the third part, we intervene with additional control measures if necessary to save the crop. So the IPM sandwich is first, biological and cultural control. Second, the middle part, scouting. And third, intervention when it's needed to save the crop. So now let's talk about scouting. Today you're going to see two short videos. The first one's on the Seedling Scout. And this is prior to first tassel. The second video is on the Cob Scout, which is after first tassel. These two videos are available to you to download on this website. In addition, you will find two teaching guides that walk you through each slide, explaining the concepts and providing you with the answers you need to answer farmers' questions when you show this video. We hope that you will use these two videos to train smallholder farmers how to effectively manage fall armyworm. Now, here is the first message that you need to convey to your farmer clientele. Just because you've got fall armyworm in your maize does not necessarily mean that you need to spray. So let's watch the first presentation on the Seedling Scout. There are three keys to successful management of fall armyworm. One, start scouting early during the seedling stage. Two, look for clusters of small, fresh window panes. Three, control fall armyworm when the larvae are small before they move into the whorl. When scouting a maize field prior to first tassel, consider the growth stage of the maize plants and the size of the fall armyworm larvae. Maize has two high-risk growth stages, the seedling stage and early cob development. In this presentation, we will focus on the seedling stage. You will often hear the term V stage. V stands for vegetative. This seedling has 5 leaves. However, if you look closely, look right here, see? You will see that the collar around the leaf stem is only visible on the bottom 3 leaves. The 2 upper leaves on this seedling do not have visible collars. Therefore, by convention, this seedling is defined as V3, meaning it has 3 leaves with visible collars. Vegetative growth in maize is divided into 2 phases. The seedling stage, when plants have 1 to 6 leaves with visible collars, and the mature plant stage, when plants have 7 to 12 leaves with visible collars. Here's what you need to remember. Maize seedlings are more sensitive to fall armyworm than mature plants. The life cycle of the fall armyworm is short. Fall armyworm progresses from egg hatch to large larvae in about 2 weeks. During the vegetative growth, the larval size determines spray timing. You need to spray when the larvae are small. Egg laying during the seedling stage leads to severe whorl damage about 2 weeks later. Time to control whorl damage by large larvae was 2 weeks ago when the larvae were small. Begin scouting at the seedling stage. Look for signs of egg hatch and the presence of small larvae. Look for clusters of small fresh window panes. Small fresh window panes indicate egg hatch and the presence of small larvae. Don't spend a lot of time searching for egg clusters and small larvae. They are well hidden and difficult to find. Instead, look for the signs of feeding by small larvae. Fall armyworm lays its eggs in clusters of about 100 eggs per cluster. When the egg clusters hatch, they produce clusters of small larvae. Clusters of small larvae produce clusters of small fresh window panes. During the vegetative growth stages, look for clusters of small fresh window panes. Target small larvae with your control measures. Here's why. Small larvae feed on the leaves where they're exposed and where they are vulnerable. Small larvae are highly susceptible to insecticides and natural enemies. A normal foliar spray controls small larvae because they're exposed on the leaves. And soft, more environmentally friendly control methods, including botanical sprays, microbial insecticides, and even the release of natural enemies, are more effective on eggs and small larvae. Apply fall armyworm control measures while the larvae are small before they move or before they grow large and move into the world. By now, you're probably asking yourself, well, what about the large larvae? By the time the larvae get this big, they're easy to identify, but they are difficult and expensive to control. By the way, the 4 dots on the 8th abdominal segment identify this larvae as fall armyworm. When scouting for fall armyworm, the eye is naturally drawn to severe damage caused by the large larvae. And in fact, farmers spend a whole lot of time and resources trying to control the large larvae. I'm here today to tell you that it's a whole lot more cost-effective to focus your control efforts on small larvae. Now, feeding signs that indicate the presence of large larvae include scraping. In this picture, there are 2 types of feeding damage: scraping and small window panes. On the upper right here, is a cluster of small fresh window panes. Clusters of small fresh window panes indicate small larvae. Now down here on the lower left is a different feeding sign called scraping. Scraping indicates large larvae. Notice the width of the scraping. The width of the scraping indicates the width of the armyworm head capsule. The wide scraping indicates the presence of a large armyworm. Cutting, tearing, and frass indicate the presence of large larvae. Large armyworms leave fecal pellets. They're kind of an insect manure, which is called frass. Frass indicates the presence of large armyworms. As the damaged leaves expand out of the whorl, fall armyworm feeding results in a horizontal series of holes across a pinch in the leaves. This unusual sign is called whorl feeding sign, and it indicates the presence of large armyworms. Now here's what I need you to get. Scraping, cutting, tearing, frass, and whorl feeding sign all tell the same story. They indicate infested whorls. They all indicate the presence of large armyworms. As larvae grow large, they move into the world. Large larvae in the whorl are protected from exposure to insecticides and natural enemies. It's important to recognize that large larvae are highly resistant to insecticides. To control large larvae, you have to direct the spray nozzle into the whorl. This requires extra time and effort. And there are only a few insecticides that are effective on large fall armyworm, and they're expensive. So the bottom line is large larvae are difficult and expensive to control. When scouting a field during the seedling stage, check 5 locations per hectare. At each location, check 10 plants in a row. Examine the newest 3 to 4 leaves emerging from the whorl, and only record fresh feeding damage. On this plant, notice below that there are old window panes on the lower leaves. Can you see them right here? Right in here, all right? There is no fresh feeding damage on the newest 3 or 4 leaves coming out of the whorl. The new leaves are clean. So this plant is recorded as undamaged. There are 2 patterns for field scouting, the W pattern and the ladder pattern that is pictured here. When plants are tall, it is difficult to cross the row at an angle. When plants are tall, use the ladder pattern. Here's how to do it. Begin walking down the middle of the field. Turn left, walk several paces, stop, and examine 10 plants in a row. Return to the middle and continue walking down the field. Turn right, walk several paces, stop, and examine 10 plants in a row. Return to the middle and continue walking down the field. Repeat this left-right pattern until you've examined 5 locations per hectare. The ladder pattern and the W pattern produce the same 5 samples per hectare. At each location, record the number of plants out of 10 that have small, fresh window panes. At each of the same locations, record the number of plants out of 10 with infested whorls. By the way, remember that scraping, cutting, tearing, frass, and whorl sign all tell the same story. They indicate infested whorls. They indicate the presence of large larvae. All you need to scout a field is a piece of paper and a dull pencil. An experienced scout can check a field and make an informed decision in 15 minutes. Exit the field and calculate the percentage of plants with small fresh window panes. This is your small worm, armyworm count. Calculate the percentage of plants with infested whorls. This is your large armyworm count. For small larvae, base your management decision on the percent plants with small fresh window panes. Use a plant age-based action threshold. If 20% or 2 out of 10 seedlings have small fresh window panes, take action. If 50% or 5 out of 10 plants, mature plants, have small fresh window panes, take action. Next slide. For large larvae, you use the same action thresholds. Base your management decision on the percent plants that have infested whorls. Use the same plant age-based action threshold. If 20% or 2 out of 10 seedlings have infested whorls, take action. If 50% of mature plants have infested whorls, take action. During the vegetative growth stages of maize prior to first tassel, the 3 keys to cost-effective fall armyworm management are as follows. Check your maize fields during the seedling stage. Look for small fresh window panes. They indicate egg hatch and the presence of small larvae. Apply armyworm control measures when the larvae are small before they move into the whorl. Thanks for listening. That's the end of the first video.